Hey guys, I'm sitting here in the pod. This is my pod. These are my cats, two of them, little babes. I just wanted to give you, for those who wanted it, a little bit of help on the homework tonight, the Précis homework. So the problem with a Précis, or the good thing about a Précis, is that you can't do it unless you have a good understanding of the piece, which is why even though Mr. Luthi and I don't use it for an intro, for an RA essay, a lot of teachers do, because that tight specific formula covers a lot of Space Cat. Not all of it, but enough that if you're doing it well, it shows that you have a strong handle on the piece. So thinking back to my trad wife Précis that you guys read yesterday or today, the good one, the fourth one, it's really long because I'm showing off how much I can get out of the piece. So for this particular piece, I'm going to write the Précis just like you guys. So I too am tired after a long day, but I have to make myself do the homework too. So let me show you how I started it. So I haven't written my Précis yet. I will, and I'll have that sample for you by tomorrow. But I started by putting it on my laptop, and then I just grabbed a piece of paper and I started just as chronologically as I saw choices, I wrote them down in order. So that is like this box. So I did it on scratch paper here, and then I transferred it to this paper just to model this paper again. So this is the same as this. So just one by one, I went straight down. And here's what I saw. So this is why I want you to stop. If you want to try to tackle the spoken word poem by yourself, then you're going to want to stop this video because I'm going to give a lot of stuff away. So I found right away, right out of the gate, he starts with a rhetorical question. Notice the word rhetorical. It's a strategy to ask a question that you don't actually wait for an answer for. So he says, why? So you want to get an education. Why? And so immediately I'm thinking, okay, he started by putting the listener on the defense. So like most people would be like, well, obviously everyone wants an education. Most people probably want to go to college. Probably most kids, most of your friends want to go to college. And if somebody pushes and goes, wait a minute, why? You're like, suddenly you're having to defend yourself. So that opening puts the listener on the defense. And then he goes into lists. So he does a long list of what society will tell you about why school's good, and then a long list of what parents will tell you of why school's good. And I thought those were both powerful because that's kind of like a counter argument, which normally is something that when you write an argument essay, like should cell phones be banned in schools or something, you usually give your reasons. And then at the end of the essay, you provide a counter argument where you say, some people will say blank, and then you take it down. You like dismantle their point. That's called a counter argument or a counterclaim. And it's like he's putting that at the top. So he's listing all these good reasons that society says or parents say you should go to school, only so he can dismantle them as the piece goes on. So I noticed that. And to me, that's kind of a logical strategy. He's not necessarily trying to make you feel sad or angry or excited or loving or nostalgic or patriotic or anything like that. It's just kind of a logical argument. I'd say that's a logos move. And then he repeats the phrase, education is the key. And he says it in that cadence. And it reminded me of parents hammering, like, I'm telling you, son, education is the key, like just hammering you. And so that repetition provides that kind of pounding, like, don't think, it's not about what you want, it's not about what you feel, it's just what good kids do is get educated. Then he moves into more logos. So he's using logical exemplification here. So he's giving examples. Examples are a logos move of by long list. So listing, exemplifying, those are both rhetorical strategies. You could call it either one or both. So he gives examples in a long list of all these people who were super successful. So Oprah Winfrey, Steve Jobs, and so on. And that's really powerful. That long list really puts the listener again on the defense, like, oh, wait, like maybe my mom went to college, but she's not successful like that, and they didn't go. That is a really important strategy he uses. Then he asks another rhetorical question. Were any of these people uneducated? And he doesn't expect you to answer. He just asks the question to make his point. No, they're not uneducated. Sorry. And then he moves on to a couple of metaphors. And notice I didn't just say metaphors. I didn't lump them together. I delineated each one. So he says that it's like a family tree, and that hard work and education go hand in hand. Maybe a degree, I think he says, is a distant cousin. Already I'm kind of forgetting. But so he has that family tree metaphor. And then he has the key versus lock. So this kind of is a callback to earlier. Education is the key. But then he flips the script and he's like, wait, parents are saying education is the key. I'm sorry, it's actually a lock. And he backs that up by giving evidence for that. He says that there's no outside the box thinking aloud. Like if you check mark the wrong box, you just get it wrong. And as a teacher, I have to laugh like, you think? Yeah, if you get it wrong, it's wrong. So I would love to go head to head with him as a teacher, but he makes this great, cool little move by flipping it from, no, this education locks you. You can't think outside the box. You have to just say what the teachers want you to say. You just, like be a robot and just do whatever they say and don't think for yourself. So that was pretty powerful. He references the Bible. That's a really obvious move. So the book of Proverbs is a famous book in the middle of the Bible that is life advice. It's not so much like, it's not super religious as much as like just good advice for wise living. And so if the book of wisdom is telling you don't get an education, well, that's pretty powerful, at least if you give the Bible any credibility. Then he kind of makes an ethos move. So he builds his own credibility by telling his story. And I have to say, this was really powerful for me as a listener, because all this time I'm very suspicious because I, the audience, am an educator. So I have gotten a master's degree. I paid my own money to get it. I'm passionate about my job. I love my job. And I'm proud of my job. And so all this time, I'm very suspicious and I'm pushing back against him. And I'm like, oh, sure, Steve Jobs, Mother Teresa, all these famous people you list. Of course, they didn't go to college. They're still powerful and famous. But that's like a one-off, right? For every one of them, there's a million of them who didn't go to college and live a hard life, minimum wage. So this wasn't really affecting me, but here, and here I'm thinking, how do I know? Maybe he's just bitter because he applied to Oxford and he didn't get in. So maybe he's just like, sour grapes, I didn't get in, so now I'm going to be a hater. Well, here is where I realized as an audience, oh, he did go to college. He did graduate. So it's not that he's bitter because he didn't get in and he's just like leaving a 0-star Yelp review. He actually went through and graduated, and he tells this emotional story. He uses this emotional diction, kind of like a sob story of his exhaustion. Like he was so tired, he had to have 2 Red Bulls, one at night and one in the morning to wake up. And he says that college wasn't a place of his dreams. Rather, it was the only place he could dream because he would sleep. He put his head down on the desk, something like that. And he even gets more emotional by he uses death diction. So he says like, we were zombies, and deadlines are because you're dead, like because you're dead inside and you're dead from exhaustion. So this is like all like, oh, poor him. Like I actually felt really sorry for him. Like, wow, that was an experience that must have sucked. And then he provides a counter argument. So then he goes, look, okay, I know you're going to say that, well, you can gain something from college. And so he already anticipates the reader pushing back. And he goes, hey, I'm not saying there's nothing to gain. You probably think I'm saying that all education is bad all the time. I'm not saying you don't gain anything. So that's a counter argument. That's a logical move, a logos move. And then he moves on to exhort people to help themselves. Exhortation is a cool vocab word. So in other words, hey, you should become your own boss. Like, be less worried about school, the university, and what they want from you, and think for yourself and go become your own boss. And then he expands the definition of what it means to be educated. So providing definitions is a rhetorical strategy. I think it might be on your cat sheet. If it's not, it should. He kind of changes the definition from somebody who has a college degree to somebody who's an expert in any field. So Kentucky Fried Chicken, like Colonel Sanders is an expert in chicken. And then, why am I blanking on what soccer star he used? It wasn't Messi. Ronaldo? I don't know. I can't remember. Sorry, I just watched it. But he talks about how this amazing shot into the goal that's education, like in that field. So it's not always a college degree. So he redefines what it means to be educated. And then the last thing I noticed was he makes a quick allusion in that when he's talking about the soccer image to the story of the prodigal son from the Bible. So once I listed all those, I now am going to do this process. Now, you don't need to have this paper at home. You could do this on any piece of paper. Like I just did it on scratch paper. But I then grouped everything in logical like groups. So under logical arguments, I put the fact that he lists, he changes definitions, and he provides counter arguments. So all those I lump together, kind of like logos, so to speak, but this is him just providing logical points. And then the metaphors I lump together, the family tree and the lock. And then emotional diction, inspiring pity. So I didn't just say diction. I didn't even just say emotional diction. What kind of emotion? Well, diction that makes you pity him. He had to drink Red Bulls. He was exhausted. And then a subset of that is the death diction. So I put all that together. And then I put all the religious stuff together. And that doesn't cover everything, but that certainly is 4 solid chunks. So then if I were to go on to write an essay, you're not, but if I were to, I would then have to star the top 2 or 3, depending how many body paragraphs I'm doing. So I might think, well, the religious imagery, that wasn't so important, but the emotional diction, I think that was really, really important. And I think the logical stuff was really, really important. So those would be my top 2 for a 4-paragraph essay. And then I would have to try to think, can I wiggle in the metaphors into one or the other? I bet I can. I would have to think about that, but I bet I can. Maybe I could put in this religious imagery here, Muhammad, Jesus, Mother Teresa. Maybe I could combine that with listing or under listing. So I'm going to do that right now. And then I drew arrows. These are choices that didn't make it over here, but I think I could wiggle them in. So like for example, well, I guess I did make it over there, but this whole builds credibility by telling his story. Hey, take it from me. That fits with emotional diction. So it's emotional diction, but it's also ethos, him building credibility. So I can wiggle in the idea of ethos, of credibility into this emotional diction section. And then the rhetorical question, were any of these people uneducated? He's making a logical argument. So I could fit that under the logical argument section, but also show that I know the term rhetorical question. So I can wiggle that in. I notice education is the key. That is repetition. He repeats that. So that repetition, that kind of hammering, parents hammering, can come under the counter argument section because he's providing that argument that parents make. And then here's a rhetorical question that can fit under logical argument. So anyway, now that I have categories, since I'm doing a précis, in a précis we always put 3 big choices. So I'm going to do metaphors. So my précis is going to list these 3 things. Now I know I also have to figure out what I want to say about the speaker. I have to say what I think about the tone, and I have to say what I think about the audience and the purpose. So linking all those together, I can make my 4-sentence précis following the template That's posted on the Tuesday homework. Okay, thanks for listening. I'll probably only get like 2 watches, and I don't blame you a bit. Bye.